We'll wait for it to show up.
Gonna
This is kind of like our
start.
routine. We start,
Yeah.
we think we've begun. We don't really know if we've begun. We just chat a little bit. Ah, looks like Call of Duty Esports tweeted us out.
Nice.
Official account. We're in a good
So are we?
spot.
What's our name? Are we going with hard points?
We're gonna go for it for now.
How hard are you though?
Until somebody tells me it's really good or somebody says it's really bad. That's what we're gonna go with. I'm okay
Okay,
with that.
I like that.
Joe
We better make some hard points then.
Joe's so beautiful. Whenever you look at him,
He is.
I
I like his.
sometimes
I like his hoodie too. I should have got one
sometimes
of
I
those.
game with Joe and I ask if he can just turn his webcam on. Just the two of us while we game. He says no.
Now can you hear me?
I hear
I
you
can hear
now.
you.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
okay. Yeah.
Joe is muted.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm good now.
letting people fly in here. People tell me to dance. A and Z Rostermania. We can talk about some APAC. You guys want to talk about some APAC today?
Yeah.
A little bit of APAC?
Sure.
I probably
Sure,
won't
why not?
be able to give much input, but
Gydra, I believe it's like a
Sure.
Team Gydra kill play. We can talk about it later. When we talk about Rostermania, when we talk about it.
Mm.
Well,
yeah, that's fine.
yeah, welcome everybody. It's going to be episode 2 of Hard Points. That's what we're going to call it for now. We kind of already discussed that. You've seen that already. But now you know officially that that's what it's called.
We're in Paris, dude. We're
We're in
there.
Paris. I mean, doesn't sound like the event was liked by too many people, but we went anyway. We're there.
The background's the lowest res.
Listen, I made it a point to find the lowest quality picture of Paris you could possibly find.
Oh.
I didn't even know. So actually, when I'm looking at the picture, I had no idea that there was like an actual city with big buildings like that. Because we've
Neither
only
did
been
I.
to the Eiffel Tower section, the
Wait,
official,
Can we go to the big building section?
the official district of Paris. It's called the Eiffel Tower district.
Official, is that a thing?
Yeah, of course it is.
Official city.
My spare
district
time, I survey lands.
of
My spare
Paris.
time.
I'm googling this.
Go ahead, go look. Tell you it's right.
Oh yeah, you're right.
See, Google, it's a beautiful thing. But guys, today we're going to be discussing ESWC. Happened over the previous weekend. If you didn't get up like me at 5 a.m. Every day to see Just Dance on, you would have seen some of the broadcast possibly. But this is one a lot of people miss. It's really hard for people to get up early in the morning to see these events. I know we wanted to watch a little bit, Joe. Tyler, I don't know where you were. You just
I
go
stayed up.
MIA on the weekends. Well,
I stayed up.
why
I was
weren't you
watching.
watching with us?
I was laying in bed. That was comfy, dude. I'm sorry.
It's
You guys didn't hit
disrespect.
me up. You guys are fake friends. So I don't know. I don't know what
Disrespect.
you want me to do.
Disrespect.
Oh, dude.
But Joe, what do you think of the event?
Me?
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
I said Joe. You are definitely Joe.
It was a crazy one. Obviously, a lot more teams starting in pools from Europe than North America. A lot of big changes there that sort of showed in the standings, in the final standings. I think a lot of us sort of predicted Optic winning this event just based off improvements from Atlanta. They just seem to keep getting better and better. Yeah, overall, obviously behind the scenes there was issues with ESWC, but I think
Yeah.
it was a good event. You have Optic versus FaZe final. Wasn't the most exciting thing that we've seen between these two, but overall it was pretty solid.
And Tyler, what were your thoughts?
I think overall the event progressed pretty well going into the later days. Obviously, there's always been some sort of these weird issues at ESWC that need to be worked out at times. But as far as
Yeah.
just the tournament, it went, fairly as expected, to be honest. We saw a couple teams sort of bounce back as we thought they would, like Rise, for example.
No doubt.
Fuse with another good showing. And then Evil Genius, a bit of a surprise, making a couple reverse sweeps. Will they do it again? Probably not, but still some good showings.
I completely forgot they existed for a bit. I mean, they were tough, but I actually thought I thought outside some of the technical stuff, I thought the actual games from the event were pretty good. I thought the open bracket was one of the more competitive ones. Like usually, I know first 2-3 rounds open bracket. I mean, you got these people going out there getting slaughtered. I mean, they're just getting murdered. You didn't have that at this event actually, which was quite nice. But they take some tea because tea is amazing. It was did have some
Okay,
production
over
flaws. You did see I know a few times where it was like I think it was like Maven or Jack. They're like, we're gonna go do analysis. We're gonna go to analysis now. Camera's still on them. We gotta go to analysis. And then Brycey would just like show up, and he'd be like, "Oh, are we on? Oh, hey, what's up? We're here." But I know that. Other than that, I thought the games were actually very good. We can go into some of the teams from ESWC. I think we start a lot like last week, where we talk about teams that were disappointing to us. I think the one everybody knows we're going to talk about is Cloud9. We thought they could not get worse, and they did. They
They
did.
got a lot worse.
Yeah, which is actually hilarious because shout out to the stats guys that I work with a little bit. I know JP. I think he was working with goalies. Some of the guys at Coddy's were to Wiki and whatnot. Lacefield had the number 1 overall KD because we could only pull from the games on the stream, and he only was on there for 7 maps. So
Well,
in the 7 maps,
technically they didn't get worse. They placed the same. It's still
That's
terrible,
true.
but
listen,
they didn't get worse.
listen. Placing the same for them in that placement is getting worse.
I know.
Yeah.
It was.
And they were in like a pool, right? You have Fnatic, Elevate E6, all beatable teams if the second place Cloud9 shows up. And then, okay, you lose to those teams in some close games, whatever it is. Then you drop to losers bracket. And no disrespect to Set to Destroy, but Cloud9 should not be losing 3-0 to that team whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like,
Set
they
to
shouldn't be. They like
Never.
Set to
and
Destroy's
what would have
roster-
happened
No.
if they beat Set to Destroy? They play Luminosity with the fill-in. Okay, they beat them. Then they play Fnatic again. Like, they had a great opportunity to go on a run, and they just played horribly. Just not good.
It's like you didn't even see any improvement. I mean, I made that joke about Lacefield being number 1 in KD just because he was only on the stream 7 games. Ricky is number 1 in Search and Destroy KD in the same 7 games, which only 2 maps. Do the math. I mean, look, they should not be placing down. I mean, look at some of the teams they placed with. Panda, they had an off event. Supremacy. I mean, this is a team that really hasn't done much. I mean, they were like 6th before London. They didn't go to London. Visa issues there. 3G, they kind of fall all the way down at an EU event. But some of the teams they placed behind, man, like Extrovert Esports, Elevate, Set to Destroy. I mean, they're solid teams, but Cloud9 should not be placing that low. That is no excuse. It's the same thing we said in the past. And when you're kind of almost in that same bracket that they put Echo Fox in, you know things are not working out.
I don't know what they need to do to bounce back.
They got to scrim
why are
more.
they continuing to not like slay? Their S&D was their best game type. They're struggling in that so heavily. Is it just purely communication? Is it people on the team not caring? Are people on the team sketching? Is that why they're like playing bad? Because that's a thing too. That could be happening. Like they've just given up on the team. I've had that happen before. That's not fun. So is that just like a prolonged trip where the team is doomed? They said they're not making roster changes, but the overall team attitude is just
is that
so
is that a roster change that is or not a roster change that everybody's agreed upon, or is that contractual? Is that contractual? Is that like, hey, no, we're not letting you. This is a team. Good luck.
It's one of the more confusing situations because like this is a team in a perfect spot to make a roster change. It's like they have enough points to kind of stay in it, like where they could get somebody lower that's really good. Like they're not going to drop out. Like you still think they're kind of favorites to make it in. Like they're in a perfect spot to make a change. I think when we actually talk about Rostermania and whatnot and what teams could do to improve, it's kind of hard to find anybody, to be quite honest. That's kind of where I think things stumble Cloud9.
I mean, yeah, it was like a prolonged trip between Atlanta and Paris, but I guess before these 2 events, they weren't practicing the same that they were before Vegas. So maybe it's a practice thing they need to get back to grinding, or
which is
maybe
so weird to me.
I don't know,
because you play second and you're one series. I mean, that first series versus Rise went to game 5. Like they're 1 map away from taking it to a second series and winning a championship. Like. Yeah. You would think I'm going home and I'm getting first place. Like, oh, I got second place.
100%.
Bro, I'm good, dude. I'll see you later, dude. Like, doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Was that Assault and Lacefield's best placings?
It has to be.
It has to be, right?
To be.
I mean, you can definitely say
people attribute it so much to like the OSA and Skinny Bot, but like it shouldn't be this dramatic of a change. This drop off is, you can't even explain it. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of joked a little bit. Well, not really joked. We talked a little bit about it with Rise's performance online. It's like, oh, nobody's fallen that hard from placing first to like, online performances like going into the next event. I haven't seen anyone drop harder than Cloud9 going from second to basically, I mean, they are out in day one. I mean, they're gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're not even making it out of groups or nowhere close. It's just a really confusing team. It's kind of sad, too, because they have a ton of potential. I mean, we saw it at Vegas. I actually think so. When they did the document for this show, I lumped all four teams in 21 through 24 in as disappointments. So placing there, you had Allegiance. They've completely bombed out since Vegas. G2, they don't make it out of Open at Atlanta. They had 21st through 24th there. Living the Dream, they've already broken up. And TK as well. Those teams, all disappointments. I don't know who I would actually kind of hold as the highest of the disappointments. So the one that I'm actually
I'll talk about it,
TK,
please. No,
Allegiance,
I think it.
Allegiance.
I think it
know.
has to be
Yeah.
Allegiance. Like this is a team that get fourth at Vegas. And these are guys who tweet a lot about online and yada yada yada. Just wait till land comes along,
Yeah.
and then they just bomb the next two events. I mean, these were dudes who were seriously like trying to convince the world that they're a top four team. Like expect it all the time when we get to land, and just back to back terrible placings.
I mean,
It's not
G2
not
lost to
surprising though.
United. G2 lost to United in Open, so it's not like an awful loss.
Well,
But
I mean,
still, like,
G2 they play Giants first round, which that's a Spanish team. If you guys don't remember, that
It's a
was
whore.
in both stages last year. And I said it. I said this is potential upset. Round one of winners bracket, they lose to them, so right away they goes to losers bracket. So they actually went on a pretty solid run to get this placing.
Tyler, what do you think of those teams?
Allegiance is. I kind of figured they're gonna flop. Vegas was like a dream performance from multiple of their players. They talk a lot. They don't. We've seen it from these guys multiple times, and they're talented players, but I don't know. They just seem too complainy for me. I don't know. I just like it just gets annoying after
It
a
seems
while.
like
To be
they would
honest.
be like a little bit frustrating to play with at times.
Yeah, definitely. G2, they made a good run. Not a good placing from them. I don't know. These are like these bubble teams that have good lineups. Like we're talking about this 20,
It's all players
21
you
to
would know.
24. And it's like they've had good placings, but like TK's down here as well. This roster's been just lackluster. I thought out of like all these sort of, I guess, bubble teams that I thought might make it, they're just not. For some reason, they can't put it together. I haven't been able to see them play very much, unfortunately. So I can't really put a finger on why. But you look at these four guys, and you expect them to be at least in the running for top 9.
I mean, TK had a lot of promise towards the end of Black Ops 3.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was.
I mean, especially with this roster, like this roster is really good. You have Cole Chan, who was like your breakout player last year. Happy, who saw another breakout player, very consistent. Gunjar, for who a long time, he's a little kill horishy, but I mean, he was a top slayer in almost like every game for a while. A lot of talent, and then you have Theory, who's been at the top.
You have to note though, like all these people that were very good at Black Ops 3, this game's slow. I don't care who I'm talking to. If you want to argue that whatever game was faster, time to kill, whatever. IW respawns are way slower than Black Ops 3 ever was. So people like that thrived off of that. Yeah, exactly. People that thrived off of that, like Cole Chan, Happy, I would say as well. Maybe they're just not adapting as well.
It's funny. It's like
in Black Ops 3, you had 110 engagements. Like
now you're at like what 6? You're at like 60 now.
Now, I mean that's like the difference of maybe 2 or 3 attempts at each hill, which 2 or 3 more attempts on the hill at each one, which doesn't seem like a ton, but over the course of the game, that's 40 to 50 engagements. I mean, it's kind of wild there. I thought Elevate was pretty disappointing. I mean, they get 13th through 16th. That's an EU team. I thought we would see them do pretty well. Reedy and them. They go back to Europe. Usually Europe, we see the European teams plays pretty well. I was actually disappointed in Elevate, especially after they beat Cloud9 again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're one of those teams, right? I mean, like sort of, there's a lot of eyes on Reedy because he's sort of the one who struggled in respawns a lot, and they lose to E6. They don't get out of pools, which I think if they get out of pools, they obviously have a probably a better placing. I think there's a lot of skill in Watson and Zed, especially
out.
early on. But I mean, 13 through 16 to me is respectable. I don't think it's too bad for this team. Maybe 9 through 12 or 7th, 8th is a little bit better.
kinda
but I
had
didn't see
hopes
them
for
going
7, 8.
past. I didn't see
Yeah.
them going past that. So I don't think it's too bad for these guys, but I think you're probably gonna expect some changes from this team as you've seen
Every
some
team
of the tweets
outside
on
of
Twitter.
Infused, I think, changes
Infused,
in Europe.
yeah.
But Echo Fox, Tyler, I'll let you speak on Echo Fox a little bit. I know you're a big fan of the Foxes.
Sure. They've got to be done, right? Like,
I
I know.
there's
mean,
nothing to say. There's nothing to say. They've done nothing.
God, if I
And
read
what?
if I read
How
another
long?
tweet,
How long is Echo Fox COD been a thing?
Oh,
What, a
a
year?
little bit.
Yeah.
Year and a half? They've done nothing. Like, wipe it, start new.
Roster's just in a bad spot. They seem to be kind of stuck in between, like
It sucks.
And I don't even know why, because I haven't been able to watch them play. Like,
Yeah,
the
me either.
2Ks, they were putting up some like top 8, top
they always
16
play pretty well online.
placings.
Yeah.
But in terms of land, just haven't been able to see them perform.
And I was actually excited for Mosh and TCM. I thought both of those players had a lot of promise. I just don't know. Like, you just don't know, like, with that roster, like, are the veterans of it, like, done, or are the newer guys just not there yet? Like, it's like, I feel like it's one or the other.
And I don't think like, because Mosh has been competing for a while. Methods has like,
Methods
you can call him a veteran, but at the same time, he's still very young. I think he's 19, so there's still
Yeah.
a lot of sort of, prosperity in him. I mean, you have TCM who turned 18 at the end of the year last year. So I mean, it just maybe they need more time. I don't know. This roster just not seeming to work.
If I'm Echo Fox, there's a couple of quality teams in here on quote unquote lesser orgs, and I'm not talking about them going and poaching a team, but they might want to look for just an entirely new roster as a whole. Like, honestly, like, for it to be more worthwhile for Call of Duty for them.
No, supposedly,
It's just
I didn't see it.
Drop
Supposedly
Mosh.
Mosh got dropped this morning. So that's
I didn't
kind
hear
of something to see
anything
in the
about
chat. I
that.
mean, I kind of looked at rosters all day. I did not see that, so I don't know if that's confirmed or not. What if
Check
Neslo
Twitter.
calls up Kozdov, like, yo, man, I think we should get the band back together. They get Sharp. Where's Sharp at? You know where
Sharp's
what
retired.
Sharp's doing? Get Sharp out of retirement.
Ties.
Sharp's
No.
making videos, dude.
Bring it back. Goonjar, Theory, Neslo, Sharp.
Yeah.
One last time.
Dude, no
The
joke,
third
they'd
time.
probably do better. No joke, they'd probably do better.
Dude,
just
I miss
because-
Sharp, man.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys
probably
who's
Can't
great.
do much worse. So they got
I'd
that
say-
going for
Yeah.
them.
I'd say that roster could get top 16. That might be-
Come on,
that-
come on!
that's a
You're gonna say I think they could be much better, and you go, oh, I think they get top 16.
It's
Come
better,
on, man.
right?
It is, but
They're
those
in the
guys
running,
are like
right?
incredible together. Oh, granted, I don't think they do well now, but
It's been a while, bro.
yeah, no, that TK guys is not coming back. That was a little bit of a joke. And then Red Reserve. This is a team who I imagine they're going to make some kind of change, but they talk about like a drop off after getting first place. After CWL London, they have been non-existent. They have not been a challenger or a threat to anyone.
This seems they don't play well against North American teams. I mean,
Yep.
They eat out a pool and then they get 3-1 by phase, and then they drop to losers and they lose to Epsilon in game 5. I guess you could say Epsilon was playing well this event, but I mean they just don't play well versus North American teams. It seems they play well in Europe. Obviously they win in London, so they play well versus those teams, but they just don't seem to be doing. They're not in a good state at all.
Yeah, let me see if I can find some stats from them. Did not have every game on stream, so obviously just kind of take it with a grain of salt. But this is a team
This
where,
are-
I mean, look, Rated, I think Rated actually comes in as their best rated player. So 12 maps on stream. It's probably 2 or 3 series. He had a 1.01. 0 at a 1.
That was their best.
Yeah, 0 at a flat 1. See, I gotta use a scroll wheel here.
Ever since
Joe,
the end
dude,
of Black Ops 3, like this sort of splice after that splice team just sort of split up. It just seems like both teams just didn't get any better, sort of after their roster changes,
Yeah.
and it seems like both got worse.
I think I just don't know if like the duos they split off to would have been the ones that I would have split off
Completely
to.
agree.
That
Yeah, I
makes any
completely agree with
sense.
you. When those roster changes went down, I'm like, I don't know if they really thought that one through as far as they should
I
have.
was
But
shocked Zero played with Urban again, because if you remember,
I
Urban was
was
not
as
very
well.
good at
No.
COD champs. But
Wasn't
then-
good at like Anaheim and Orlando as well. I remember him doing some very questionable things. He was always the guy with Kuda, and I was like, why the hell does this guy have a Kuda?
and then
Always.
I was actually shocked that Splice got rid of Rated and Joe. Like obviously, people remember what happened there. Like they get rid of Josh. They're looking for one with those three. And then I think kind of what happened was like Mad Cat and Jared probably didn't want to split apart from each other. So they ended up bringing back Josh because they probably couldn't get Rated and Joe to split apart then. And they ended up with these two teams, and neither of them are working out. And Splice doesn't even place that bad. I mean, we're talking about Splice not working out.
No, yeah.
They get 5th, 6th, which isn't like an awful performance, but I think still, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, Joe. These teams want to play against the North Americans. Like they're not making these
Well, that's-
rosters to beat up on the other teams in Europe.
That's sort of one thing I respect out of
I
these
do as well.
European teams is they are changing because they want to win, right? We could talk about Splice. We were going to talk about it later, but we'll just touch on it now. Like they were one map away in both these tournaments from really, I think, excelling. I mean, they get reverse swept in Atlanta by United. If they win that, they're top 6. Who knows what happens at that point with the confidence? And then at ESWC, they start really well. They go on sort of a hot streak, and then they lose Game 5 to Rise, which I heard was a very close match. And if they win that, they're top 4 at ESWC. And then you're talking, do these guys even change, right? Because it's almost like, well, we beat some good NA teams here and good European teams here. Do we have to change because we put up some, a top 6 and a top 4 placing? So I think them sort of losing those 1 or 2 maps, that changes their placing significantly. I don't even know if these guys make a change.
I agree. I think if they do make a change, everything I've been hearing, I know everything you kind of been seeing on like Twitter a little bit, seems like Josh would be the one. I just don't know for who. That is like a big question we can talk about when we talk about rosters and whatnot. And then United, 13 through 16. How much stock do you guys put in that performance from them?
For what everyone was saying about the event itself, and for as far as like warm-ups and all that stuff, the open bracket, I don't know. I want to put my faith in these guys. This performance, I was kind of scared it was going to happen. First time competing at an international event. I don't know how they were really going to do. Kind of flopped. It's best of threes. I feel like they're going to bounce back in this next event at Dallas. I think they're going to get back into the top 4. I think they're good enough to be consistently in the top 4. I don't think they're going to win again, though, I'd probably say for the rest of the year, to be honest. That might be a little bit broad to say right now, but
I'll take the field in that. I'll take that. I think they win one more. I think they can win another.
You think they win one more? I don't know.
I think they can
know if
definitely
will.
win another.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the more this game progresses, Optic's just going to run away with stuff like usually happens. And then one of those, the other powerhouse NA teams, whether it's FaZe, Rise, someone else, probably LG, to be honest, is going to just be too strong for them to handle as far as just pure talent. Because I feel like United just had a bit of an edge on everyone else.
I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest. Like, I understand you start in pool play. Yeah, that sucks. But you just come off like a tournament win. And I get you traveled, but you're literally the best team in the world at that point. Like,
you got to show
right.
Up.
You have to at least get through open bracket. Like, they lost to Luminosity with the fill-in, which I understand. They still have Luminosity still has Classic, Slacked, and Octane, which are 3 great players. But you're a team who literally just won a tournament. You just won the first big global event of the year. Like, you have to get through open bracket. That doesn't make sense to me. I think if they get to pool play, I think they obviously place better. It just seemed you just can't lose. Can't lose in the open bracket after winning a tournament.
Yeah, I think they came in. Look, you win an event, you go out, everybody's giving you a ton of props, whatnot. You kind of fall in love with that. Then you go you don't get off to a good start because you probably you're probably out late Sunday night. You probably don't have a really good time traveling. You go there, time difference, first international event for some of these guys. They go out and explore there, and then it's like the next thing you know, like you're out. Like they probably didn't even realize it happened. But I think there's a ton of pressure on them going into the next tournament. I think going into Dallas, there's a ton of pressure. They cannot place poorly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they at least need like a top 3 finish, and then you sort of get to stage 1 because they're locked up. I mean, they won Atlanta. They're basically locked into stage 1.
Yeah. They're in a very good spot.
I think stage 1 is also the next story, right? Because if they don't place well at Dallas, it's like, okay, well, we go to stage 1, practice up. If they don't do well at stage 1, and I'm saying like top 4, I think that's when you see the split happens, like right after that
100%.
point, because those guys want to do well for stage 2 and champs.
I think at Dallas and stage 1 as well, you're going to see which of these players on this United lineup are top of the line, right? And that's going to be where these other teams start to look to poach from them. And I feel like that's when it's going to happen for sure. I don't think they're going to remain consistently strong enough throughout the next few months to really remain like winning. I don't see it.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I think they have the potential to win another, but I also think they have the potential, like Joe said, to just kind of go their separate ways if things don't go well. I think you look like Gunless is like definitely a guy you would, any of these top teams that if they have to replace somebody, they're probably looking at like same. I think Pristini and Arceus would be difficult to split, but if you have a good team with like a duo, let's say, like argument's sake, something like happens with Assault and Lace, and then they want to team up with 2 others, like Pristini and Arceus, like right there, that would be a pretty solid team as well. So,
but it just seems like this team, like it's one of those things where if these 4 players split up, it just seems like these 4 get each other. Like you tune into like their streams and for like 2Ks and some of the pros joke about it, but like these guys hardly communicate. Like they just seem to get it. They seem to have a really good. I don't know. They just have a symmetry and
they have a good rapport with each other, Joe.
Yeah. It just seems like they get it, and I'm afraid if that splits apart, that's when you see things just get worse. And we've seen it in the past where, I mean, look at TK. Like those 4 guys, when they're not together, they just don't do well.
When did that TK team make a roster change? Was it Clay? Is that the first time they changed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
When Goon went to Envy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they never really recovered from that. That's kind of crazy to even think about. But we talked about all the pretty poor performers in ESWC. There was one team that just absolutely slaughtered everybody. We can talk about Optic a little bit, a lot of it. They go 21-3 in final map count. The numbers I'm about to read are just stupid. 21-3 in map count, 9-0 in hardpoint, 6-2 in S&D. Uplink they finish 6-1. In actual winner bracket play, they go 12-0. Krim has won every ESWC. This is clearly his team's most dominant performance at an ESWC. Outside of Lacefield's 7 map, number 1 on the leaderboard's performance, Krim, Formal, and Scump would be your top 4 KDs. Not in that order, I believe it's Formal, Scump, then Krim. But goddamn, they just.
I mean, this
is bound to have
talked about. Yeah, I mean, this is just like what we were talking about. Like, this is the reason why this roster was put together. They just shoot more people than anybody else, right? Like that. Like this is what happens when 3 or 4 of them, 3 out of 4 of them are doing that, right? Like, sort of Damon plays the sort of I'm gonna just fill in a lane, do whatever needs to be done. But if the other 3 are killing this way, like this is what happens, and we just weren't seeing that at past events. I mean, this is Seth's best event in this game with a 1.22. So as soon as he shows up with Formal, and then that sort of opens things up for Krim to play the way he wants to play on the map. This is why this roster was built. Like you're not supposed to touch this team in the slaying category.
I do think there's something to say though. Scump goes from a 1.08 at Atlanta to a 1.22, and then Krim and Formal are in the same ballpark. I mean, Formal is damn close, better in ESWC than he was at Atlanta, but still, him and Krim are in the same ballpark. Karma actually drops down. So something I was kind of talking a little bit before is that when Scump is picking up the kills and Karma can fill lanes, they win. When Karma's picking up the kills and then it's on other people to fill in and pick things up and, get the furthest cut, be the first one on rotation. It just doesn't seem to really work like that. Where I feel like they just need to commit and just, I mean, Damon probably doesn't want to do it. But I mean, who wants to do it? I mean, that's unfun stuff. You just want to kill people. But I mean, he's great at it. I mean, he picks up all. He's always in the right spot. He's picking up big kills, like, and it results to wins.
And that was like talking, like touching on Crimsix. Like after Atlanta, he's like, screw it. He's like, I'm gonna just go back to killing things. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let other people call the shots, which is obviously working. But he says, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna just shoot people. You guys do what you want to do. I'll follow you, but I'm gonna turn into Crim body end, and it's obviously working.
If Crim gets a 1.2 every event, these guys aren't going to lose. But this
I agree with you.
Like, unfortunately, Call of Duty Esports revolves around this team right now in terms of who's going to be placing well at events. When Optic drops out early, that's where we're going to get these different teams that have a chance, right? But when these guys are rolling and consistent, and you're going to get at least, 2-3 events like this out of these guys per year.
Nobody's
exactly. It's going to happen, and that's why they're going to win at least an event or 2 or 3 per game cycle, right, each year. The problem is when we get a bit later on in the year, we've seen it in the past few years, everyone starts to learn more. They put themselves in better positions. The teamwork gets better, and you're going to have games where multiple people are going to be off, and that's where Optic struggles. Like Matt, to your point, Karma's fine when he's doing bad. It makes an impact, right?
Yeah.
Other players on this team don't make that same impact Karma does when they are doing bad. Mm-hmm. So, like, they need to figure out what to do in this.
They just need to figure out how that shift works. That when somebody's not playing good, how do they still kind of replicate that play style?
They are by far the best team I've ever seen when they're winning. They know how to conserve the lead, keep the lead going, and snowballing the lead. But when they're losing, they have no sort of composure is the wrong word, I think, because they have a lot of composure.
You can't even really compare them to Cole.
They don't have a bounce back.
It's two different teams. A little bit. It's like this team is so. I feel like this team, obviously, Crim and Karma still on it, but I feel like obviously that this team has much more firepower than Complexity ever did. I feel like they just play like Complexity just had a little bit more of a consistent play style. Like everybody just kind of knew where they needed to go. Like everyone knew how to fill in for each other or whatnot.
Right.
This team, I mean, dear God, I mean, if they come out and they shoot like that, you can mix up every other roster, make whatever the hell roster you want. Doesn't matter. It literally does not matter.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look at the KDs. That's stupid.
Yeah,
that's
the map count. And
I was thinking of this too.
Like
if you look at the overall team KD, has there ever been an event with that lopsided besides maybe our Cole run at 2014 champs? Like as far as team KD as a whole, like
Pat and Crim were really good at 2014.
Yeah,
that
was positive
champs.
for once in my life.
That was wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Who the hell did play in the finals of that one?
Did that, dude?
Oh,
I made it.
Anyway, back to my point. Like, is this the best?
Hey, I won my championship.
That's my point.
What'd you say?
Is this the best overall team KD performance we've seen?
I believe
it's got to be damn close. That was unbelievable.
I mean, you're looking at 1.22, 125, 120, and then basically like a 1.
It's nuts.
It's almost like you're probably looking at like just doing the quick math in my head, like something like I think a 1.18 or 19. Like you're close to 1.20. That would be a team KD. Like that's
so
ridiculous
hard
for a single player.
Hard.
Yeah. And the big thing to me is just the hard point, because looking in Atlanta, it was like when they were on like their losers bracket run in Atlanta, it was like, oh, Optic dropped game 1, but they won game 2, so they were right back in the series. But them winning game 1s, I think, is a huge deal, because it just seemed like Atlanta and Vegas, like it just seems like when they went down 0-1, it was just like to other teams, it's like shit, like we're vulnerable, like we know we can be beat. Like when you win game 1, if you're this Optic roster, you're like, this is done. Like that's what you're thinking. You're like, this is literally done. But if you lose that game 1, it gives that other team just such a boost of confidence. Like this Optic team is vulnerable. We're not scared of them. Like blah 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 blah. So I think that's sort of the biggest change, is them going what was it 9-0 in Hardpoint.
Yep.
It is just ridiculous. I think that's the biggest turnaround from Atlanta to ESWC.
And I think, look, if this team wins like a COD champs, like I mean, maybe if they even don't, and they just keep going on a tear, like they're the best team ever. I mean, it would just be.
Yeah.
It's just
Just
no way.
overall wins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
overall wins. I mean, you can't
It's
even
a matter
argue
of
at that
time.
point.
Yeah. I agree.
Actually, somebody did the math. It's actually a 1.17, so it's very close. 1.18.
Yep,
But
nice.
what I think, just kind of, we'll talk a little bit about this because this is the next thing I want to go into is really just Optic and FaZe together. So, FaZe, we know in Advanced Warfare, they had this Optic team number, no matter how, coming out of losers, had to beat them twice, whatnot. They end up beating them.
Down 3-1, just didn't care. They just
doesn't
beat
matter.
them. Yep.
This game, Optic has pounded them into the ground. So the map count is 9-1.
Nah, that's false.
It said, oh no, somebody forgot a series. Sorry, so it's 10-4. So it's 10-4.
Yeah.
FaZe 3-1 them at Vegas. Yeah, it didn't originally include Vegas. So it's 10-4 map count. FaZe 3-1s them in Vegas. Post
And we're just
Vegas,
thinking
it is
it's starting
9-1.
again.
Post Vegas, it is 9-1.
Yeah.
Since Vegas, Optic has not lost a respawn to this FaZe team. And I believe the KDs for each of these players is just for ESWC and Atlanta. So, Formal in the just FaZe matches, Formal is at a 1.36. Scump at a 1.02. Crim at a 1.12. And Karma at a 1.04. Here's where it gets kind of gross. Enables at a 0.9. Zuma at a 0.94. Attach at a 0.84. And Clay at a 0.81. Look, I mean, they're just numbers, right? I mean, but this FaZe team, they used to be able to outslay Optic. They used to be able to play them gun on gun.
Especially the last two. Like, you talk
Yeah.
Attach at 0.84 and Clay 0.81. Like, Attach and Clay destroyed this lineup X amount of times. And then you add Zuma and what he's able to do. But Attach and Clay were always like the kryptonite. Formal going head to head with Clay and Advanced Warfare was always just so close. They both dropped 50s, and then Attach would just do ridiculous things, in and around the hill. And that's sort of been the story to me, is just like Formal has just been it's such a one-sided fight right now between Formal and Clay, and I think that's huge.
And it's been mostly Clay's struggles have mostly been the respawn. So his Search and Destroy is actually the best on the team when going up against Optic. It's just the respawn game modes he's had some struggles with.
I wonder why he's struggling so much in this game compared to others. Maybe he's just not. He doesn't like the IW games, man. I don't know what it is.
He sort of tweeted about it, just like he knows he had an off series. I think maybe it's just one of those things, like sort of like Crim. It's just like, stop worrying about the other three parts and worry about yourself. I mean, I got caught up in that as a player. It's like sometimes you just drift away from that because you don't want the team to make any mistakes, and there's so many other moving parts, in the game where he's not really worrying about himself. Because to me, like, you have the K bar and the NV4 like in Clay's hands, like at all times.
He should go off.
He should play pretty damn close to what Formal does. So it just seems like maybe funny. He's trying to do too much.
Tyler, we both talked a little bit about how dominant was Optic's run compared to COD Champs 2014. JP actually just hit me up with the stats from that.
Oh yeah.
Cola COD Champs 2014 had a better overall team KD. Crim had a 1.36. Aches had a 1.35. Karma had a 1.29, and you had a 1.12.
Good job, guys.
Good job, guys. You're great.
I got second.
Casting the D stream, dude. me and Deloshi hanging out in the D stream.
Deloshi.
The guy at the Riot Shield, man.
Yeah.
I feel like Attach has no excuse. I give Clay the benefit of the doubt most of the time. Probably not fair, but Attach, like, he just needs to kill everything. That's the reason him and Zuma are on the team. Like, they don't need to think. They don't need to do anything but kill people. And I feel like he just needs to perform better versus Optic. Like,
another series they destroy. Like, Zuma was destroying the entire event. Like, Attach has been so consistent, probably the most consistent player for these guys. I mean, we don't talk about him a lot, but Enable is similar to Karma, sort of that gap filler, and needs to do.
Enable had a really good event though, overall.
Yeah, and he did. And he's just sort of like that. As soon as you get by attaching Zuma, it's like, shit, we have to shoot Clayster and Enable, and that's not easy to do. So, I mean, if those guys can just slay, I mean, And I think
Yeah.
looking at the finals, game one, I mean that restart, I think that was a
That
stake
hurt
in
sucks.
the heart, right? Like
That
it's
hurt 'em.
rough because play starts like off like 9-2, like they're up 65-5. I mean, I think the biggest thing here is if they win game one, who knows what the hell can happen? Like how far this series can go.
Maybe they rekindle some of the
Um,
magic they used to have against Optic. Like,
yeah.
I
So it's just seems like the big time performers who usually perform versus off, they have to just step up again. And again, they've been a very consistent team this year. They haven't won, but they've been super consistent at every single event.
Yeah, and talking to Clay, I think it was Sunday night. I was, just talking to him on Twitter and whatnot, and I was like, dude, like I feel like something always happens with you guys. The same thing I said at after Atlanta. I was like, man, like I feel like you guys are on a run. Like Joe, what was it? We were on Discord and we both were like, FaZe is winning this event. Like they had looked lights out. I think it was like Saturday, like going into Championship Sunday, and like
For this event or Atlanta?
ESWC. There was a
Oh
while.
yeah,
Yeah, they looked incredible with Attach and Zuma. The front.
yeah. They were just playing ridiculous. I mean, they 3-0 in pools, they 3-1 Red Reserve, and then they 3-1 Rise. It's like they're here, like they're at this
The
event, they're
wheels, and then the
destroying
wheels
people.
fall off, man.
Yeah, I mean they went 9-2 in pool play versus Envy, Splice, and Extrovert. So it was obviously a
Damn.
tough
The
pool.
tough
I mean,
pool.
and they destroyed it. I mean they 3-1 Envy and 3-1 Splice. So
Yeah. And I mean, the only losses in Hardpoint they had were the 2 to OG and then 1 to Rise. So I mean, you look at it, you
just
take
a
away the
matter of
Optic
time
series.
for
It's
these
just a matter of
guys,
time, right?
right? As soon as these guys get hot or Optic drops early to losers bracket, whatever it is, it's gonna happen. I think they win an event this year.
Yeah, it's looking like it. Enable had
They
a really
better.
good event too. I'm happy with
Yeah,
Enable's
they better.
performance at
They
Paris.
have to win an event soon.
Enable's performance at Paris was the reason why they look so dominant against everyone else. Really, I feel like he was stepped it up a lot compared to Atlanta.
Yeah, let me see if I can find Enable's overall KD. Let's see. Tatch actually finishes with a 1.14. Enable at a 1.08. So he played very well.
But mostly look at his S&D, 1.28. That like his
Yeah.
S&D on this team has been sort of the iffy part of it.
Break.
1.28, dominant. Very good stuff from Enable.
Yeah, and I believe yeah, I mean they were pretty good in Search and Destroy. I mean they gave the only losses that Rise had in Search and Destroy were to FaZe. I mean the entire tournament. So I think we covered a lot of the teams we want to talk about for ESWC. Rise, we can they make a comeback back up to the top. I don't think anyone expected them to be back down towards the bottom. This is a team that was top 3 for all of last year. So I think they just kind of righted the ship, so to speak.
This is another team to me though. It's like I think they placed top 4, top 6 throughout the entire year. I don't know if they win again.
They don't have that just final killing power as these elite teams do. I feel like they're just going to be on that 3-4 bubble the entire time.
They need a lot to go right.
It's going to be like them two or them and LG just like hanging out through 3 through 5 in my opinion.
Interesting. I actually just completely overlooked them. Thank you. I am fixed in the chat. Envy. We didn't talk about Envy at all. They were not very good. You saw Slasher and Zuma going at it a little bit, like whatnot, but I just don't. Sometimes I don't feel like Envy's head is in the game. Like
No,
I just don't feel like they're
not at all.
focused or like they're all like in different spots in life and whatnot. And they're just not all on the same page. Like you saw it in Atlanta, like apathy was lights out, but they did not look on the same page in Paris.
It's just one of those things where I don't know, because like they're obviously not going to break out. They win champs, especially since champs was later in the year than it ever has been, right? Like they're still feeling good. They still know they have the potential to win. We saw it at Atlanta. We saw glimpses of it. Obviously, SWC, maybe they had an off event. I don't know, man. Because it just seems like the pieces are there. I still think like 2 hard points. That like taking out CTF really hurts this team. Like I think it does, but I think any team with JCap on it, like as soon as there's a CTF, by no CTF, I think that sort of goes over people's heads a lot more than it should. Like that's a very huge impact to this team. But it's another team where throughout the year these guys get better. I think apathy will continue to get better. Slasher and John are obviously those are your two consistent guys. You know what you'll get, and then JCap gets better towards the end of the year. So I think Dallas will tell a big story of what we expect throughout the Pro League and for champs, but I think they still have the potential to win again.
Yeah, and John, he still has the issue with his finger as well. Has not been
Right.
playing as good, and John really kind of came on the second half of last year.
Yep.
Back in Black Ops 2, he was very good at the beginning. Played at champs with Fear, and then you saw him move on to Impact, and when Impact was Epsilon, we all know how that ended. Ghosts, he goes on. He plays for a few different teams. AW, I believe John plays for Strictly Business at COD Champs. I believe it was John Neslo. Yeah, I don't know why I remember that team. It was like John Neslo, I think Dito. They had one match on the main stage, actually, and we just keep using their footage and video packages. We used to use it all throughout the year, like of the Neslo going crazy. So that's the only reason why I remember that team. But then last year, I mean, he comes on second half of the year. John, obviously, the beginning of this year looked pretty good. I think he's only going to get better. I don't think this is a team that we're even considering making a change. No.
No way. No way. John just needs to play better. John's like the superstar slayer, needs to be at a 1.1 or above, or this team's going to have some issues. That's just literally how it is.
Yeah, we saw them play literally perfect Saturday of Atlanta. I think as soon as they can put more, the more practice this team gets, the more like tournaments under their belt, the better they're going to get. It's just one of those teams where they look at their losses. Okay, how did we lose? What do we need to fix? They go home and they do it. So I think Dallas will be a big one for them.
I mean, look, nobody played too good for them. JCap is the game's on stream, so they've only had 10 maps shown on stream, so not a huge sample size. But JCap is their best performer over those 10 maps with a 0.97. No, actually,
and to me,
that is a 0.88. That is a 0.88. Sorry, so
that's the best thing you want to hear to me, because that just means, hey guys, we have to kill more things, and we just have to kill more things, which is the easiest thing to fix.
It is.
It's like when you're outslaying teams and losing, that's when you have issues. That's when you're like, someone's doing something wrong, or we're doing something wrong, our strategies are wrong. But if you're just not slaying people and losing, that is the easiest thing to fix.
It happens. It really does happen, especially with some of the unfortunate things that are happening at Paris. At Paris, if you have to bet on John to have a good event next event, he's probably going to do it, right? So you just expect them to get back to normal. Like
Apathy had our best KDs in like almost Search and Destroy and Respawn at Atlanta.
At Atlanta, he was nuts. But again, when they go up against like an Optic or a FaZe, can they beat them? I don't think they're there yet. They're missing it. I don't know what it is exactly. I think they need to see them match up some more, but
I think
they can take FaZe. I think FaZe will go back and forth. I agree, but I do not think they can handle Optic at all in this game.
Well, I mean, they beat him in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, look at Optic now, though.
Yeah, it's a different Optic.
I'm talking about this Optic.
Yeah.
Optic. I mean, that Optic we can throw. That Optic we can throw every other team out of the window. Like we would have to break up every team in Rostermania even to come close. I think. But let's talk a little bit about roster changes. That's obviously, kind of on everybody's mind. Things we're probably expecting to happen, just in general. So some of the teams that, basically, from what I understand, I've spoken to a few of the EU casters, whatnot, they think that all the teams in Europe are pretty much going to implode outside of Infuse, which I think Infuse, we can clearly say, is the best team in Europe right now.
Within international competition, yes.
On.
Yeah.
So wait, you think they're better in the international scene than? Well, I guess it's kind of been proven over the last few years, but
yes, they've done it. They did it last year. I think they're doing it again this year. I mean, let's go see. This event, I mean, they beat Fnatic, which Fnatic had a pretty solid event. They lose to Optic. They drop down. They beat Epsilon, and then they lose to Rise. And then in pool play, I mean, they beat Luminosity and Supremacy. I mean, I don't know if this is as good of a showing as like Atlanta was for them, like that run they went on. I feel like they beat the teams they were supposed to here and lost to the teams that they were probably supposed to here. But I don't know. It just seems like their style, Marky B and his style just matches up well against NA teams. and sometimes EU teams can sort of jump on it. Maybe it's just because they recognize it. I'm not sure.
So I think EU, for me, like roster change wise, it all kind of boils down to what Splice does. Like
Yes.
whether Splice gets rid
Yeah.
of one guy, whether they get rid of two guys. I think it'll be one. If one person goes, I think like you kind of look like, well, you just brought in Jerd and Mad Cat. You're not getting rid of one of them. They came in as a duo. Like Vance was your superstar last year. Like it kind of just makes like sense. Like Joe would be the guy. Josh would be the guy. But who do you plug in that spot? Like who works well in that spot for you guys? If it were to be Josh.
Thing to me, like, and we were talking about it before, was the thing that was just so weird to me when you watch these guys play is that Josh was the guy running the submachine gun. Last year, he was Splice's anchor. They had second at champs.
He was
I don't know if it
fantastic
was-
with the assault rifle last year.
Yes, so I don't know if it was a comfort thing where maybe him and Mad Cat just sort of run the ARs, Vance and Jerd put the pressure on. I don't know, maybe someone just didn't like doing that, and Josh was just kind of like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, bye. Like, you guys can figure it out. So if there's a player in Europe who I feel will do whatever it takes to win, I think you look at Tommy and how impressive he's been this year. I mean, had a really solid event with three young guys.
Tommy's been
brought
crushing
Fnatic-
at this.
yeah, brought
game.
Fnatic into COD, but he's sort of the first guy that jumps out at me who, all right, I'm gonna do whatever the hell it takes with these 3 stars around me. He's done it in the past, so he's the first one that jumps out on me to me.
I was gonna say Tommy as well. I think he makes a ton of sense on this team. Other players you look at, like if you can get like 0 from Red Reserve, like that would have been
That's what I was
been my EU dream team. Like when Splice broke
Yeah.
up, I was like, okay, if we can get Mad Cat, Jerd with 0 and Bance on the same team, I was like, that would be a sick squad.
But
And
like,
it didn't happen.
how is the communication? Like, to me, like Mad Cat's a very quiet dude. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Jerd, I mean, TeeP, you play with it. You should probably
Jerd's
touch
quiet.
Jerd's
Jerd's
quiet.
mute.
Like, I mean, I don't know how communicate how Bance's
I don't know Bance
communication
that
is.
well, so yeah.
I feel like it's probably not the best because the dude just all last year just killed things. So like, I feel like they're just missing a leader, and I don't know if 0 is that leader.
Tommy or Swanee. Bring back Swanee.
The
Tommy
Swan
confirmed
Dog.
He's not changing at all on stream.
Oh, I can actually
Hey,
tell.
so-
I didn't tell you guys. I can tell the chat. I can
Mhm.
tell you guys. Not next week. The week after, we're gonna have Swanee on. Gonna be our first guest. I think it's the
Yes.
first time Swanee's like. Maybe he's been playing some games with some people on stream, but spoke to Swanee. He's going to come on 2 weeks from now, so that'll be pretty fun.
Hell yeah. It'll be the best show ever.
I mean, it's just gonna be full of beauty. Swanee's gonna be there. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
So, a lot of Fnatic in the chat. So, I don't think Fnatic breaks up, but here's my issue is I was looking at the pro points a little bit earlier, because pro points actually play a huge factor in this. Going into Dallas, obviously not as many pool play spots for European teams, whatnot. Fnatic has said they're not going to make a change. The issue is that if the guys from Red Reserve split up, and they go to different teams, all of those teams, even if one is at the bottom of that, is going to pass Fnatic. So Fnatic at that point needs to make a decision. It's like, do we want to hold on to our spot and pick up one of those guys, or do we kind of risk it through the next few 2Ks? I don't know what I would do, especially with how important Stage 1 is.
That's tough, man. Like, do you just make a gutsy call and just think you're going to place well at Dallas, or do you play the safe role and get players that you know you're pretty much secure?
See-
Like, I don't know what I would do in that situation. It's tough.
Scrap says nobody passes them. So is that true, Matt? Prove it.
Yeah, because the players, if you look at the points, I looked at
No.
them earlier. Bring up Condi's.
But either way, if they can hold on to that 5th spot, that's obviously big.
So they're up on Team 3G. Fnatic has 62,000. 3G has 59,000. If Red Reserve were to break up, let's say, and Rated and Urban were to stay together and play with Quicker and Zerg, they would have more.
Zerg.
I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Zed. I forgot Zerg is a player. I'm an idiot. All right, next.
Or even worse for a team like Fnatic. Let's say Elevate drops 1. If Elevate drops 1 and picks up somebody else, they're still going to be above them. That player from Elevate, he teams up with somebody from Red Reserve. You're already in a good spot. I mean, let's just use
Either way,
Reedy's
it's
numbers
close.
for instance.
It's close. You have a terrible overlay. Thank you, Golden Boy. We'd
Hey.
like to be in Paris.
Listen, sometimes you can't actually go to the events. You bring the events
Yep.
to you. I mean, this team I just made here, which realistically could be a team.
Hmm.
I messed that up. They're within like 300 pro points of Fnatic.
The Scrap says the only changes that are happening are the teams above us, is what he's saying.
So he's saying that the teams well, that is the best case scenario. If that is true,
Best case,
Yeah.
if that is true, then he's 100% right. If the teams above Fnatic just make trades within each other, then Fnatic is 100%. They're fine. Fnatic
That's the
is
biggest
fine.
thing, right? Because isn't there like the biggest rumor, right, is Josh is going to
Epsilon.
Epsilon,
But I've heard that was going to happen, and then I've heard that it's not going to happen. So I don't know. That doesn't really make much sense. Well, I mean, Epsilon was
Scraps,
good
just
last
type
year, but
the roster changes in the chat. We won't say it with you, all right? It's fine.
so Blues for Life says I don't understand the logic. The logic is that the players above Fnatic obviously have more points, whatnot. If they go team with players on the bubble, because the bubble's pretty close. I mean, Fnatic at 62,000. You have Team 3G at 59. Really, the only ones who can make a big difference here are the players on 3G. I mean, Epsilon is 47,000, but even then, what's the difference between? Okay, so Epsilon actually would close the gap to 3G at that point if they got Josh, because they would gain about 23,000. Let's say they got rid of 11K. You're picking up about 12. So you're like right there. You're at like the 59,000, 60,000, but still that's only 2,000 pro points ahead. I mean, that team gets lucky, wins a 2K. I mean,
Right. No, it's
Yeah.
close. It's gonna be close.
if the teams above Fnatic make a change, I'll link you guys the pro points here in the chat. If the teams above Fnatic make a change, Fnatic is in an excellent spot. And I was actually worried that they wouldn't, because I like this Fnatic team a lot. It's the
Yeah,
only
you've
team in Europe
seen-
that's actually improved. Like, they've actually gotten better over the events.
Rumor is Splice change, Red change, and Epsilon change. Okay.
Okay, so those are the only
Splice,
ones that are
Red,
making a
and
change.
Epsilon.
Then Fnatic is in a great spot.
Yeah, they're good.
So Fnatic would be good, which I'm
All right,
actually
so then
quite
we
happy
can talk
for.
about it. Red Reserve, dude. That's the first team we want to talk about who needs a change.
Dude, I think it makes all too much sense. I'm looking at the rosters right now. Zero somehow ends up on Splice for Josh. Josh goes down to Epsilon.
Hmm.
I mean, at Epsilon, the players I've been seeing play really well would be like Hockey and Dave. Maybe one of those guys goes to Red Reserve. But those guys have been playing together so long, they just don't seem to be in like that same clique of players. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like how there's kind of cliques of players in North America. They just don't seem to be in the same kind of group of players. Seems like Infuse is sticking. That makes sense. Elevate are as well. That's actually shocking, because I thought Elevate could actually get kind of ripped apart by this. So, I mean, think if Elevate stays, I mean, Red Reserve ends up with what? I mean, they end up with they lose one of their best players and end up with whoever's left over from Epsilon and like some kind of 3-team trade. That's their best case, right? I mean, I can't see Red Reserve getting anyone from Splice, other than maybe Josh in like a trade. I mean,
Yeah.
Josh for one of the guys on Red Reserve straight up. I mean, maybe that is something that's like interested. I mean, I can't see any of the 3G guys kind of getting up on a team in front of them.
Okay, so I just got a DM from a specific leak.
Okay.
Ooh.
We got live. This is live.
Live.
Oh.
This is like some like
Supposedly,
it's like Adam Scheffler stuff.
Zero. The Splice is supposedly the rumor,
Right.
Okay.
and then Red is supposedly looking for 2, and potentially
Oh.
picking up 2 from Epsilon. So we'll see.
Okay.
That actually makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
When you think about
Those
it, that
are
makes a little bit
solid
of sense.
changes, probably.
Like
I think.
like I forgot. I think it's Hockey and Davey who have been playing the best. At least the games that I've casted that I've seen at events from Epsilon.
The live intel, dude.
Those
Look at that.
those guys somehow going up to Red
Dude.
Reserve. Red
Dude, COD
Reserve.
community loves this shit, dude.
So
They-
then
they
you think
hear
then
intel,
you
they're
think
like,
who's the odd man out on Red Reserve then? Because if they're getting two and one is leaving and they're not getting
Well,
anybody in return.
Zero
Unless-
join a splice. It'd have to be. I don't know. I have no idea.
So then you're looking like Urban has to go somewhere, like,
Or does the duo break up, man? We'll see.
or does I mean Joe. That's the one thing I didn't consider. I didn't consider Joe and Rated breaking up, but I mean Joe. We talked about his stats earlier. I mean, wasn't great. His stats aren't everything.
Live leaks are coming in again, boys.
But Joe is actually
Supposedly-
okay. Here
Joe's
we go.
got it all, dude.
Joe's got sources here. I don't know
I
where
got
you coming
sources.
from.
I got sources. Okay, so then supposedly Red are dropping Urban,
Okay.
and Urban will join supposedly 3G. So we'll see.
Echo Fox
Holy shit,
for
dude.
Mosh.
Echo Fox.
So if Urban actually joins 3G, that actually is not good for Fnatic again, because we talked about earlier. I'm just leaving my calculator up. So 3G, they have 59,500 pro points. Let's say they subtract this guy's points, just using arbitrary man on 3G. This is all speculation. Plus that. They pass Fnatic. So if that move actually happens, if Urban goes to 3G, for the one player I singled out here on 3G, they would have 65,480 points. Fnatic would have 62,320. So they would actually be 3,000 behind, which is a
Yeah.
lot.
I'm like somebody from the NBA just leaking everything.
Dude, we got.
I'm gonna be like,
I'm over
I'm like
here,
the Players
dude. I got
Tribune.
my calculator out. I'm bringing out the salary cap. TeeP's over
you
there.
wanna
Just,
write your retirement letter to me? I'll post it. We'll go through it. We'll do it all, dude.
do it all. I got you guys. We can do it here live.
We'll do it.
That would be tough for Fnatic. I mean, that's winning a 2K without anybody getting any points and then some. But Scrap seems pretty confident that wasn't going to happen. So I don't know how much I put in your sources.
I wonder who has the true intel. I believe in Joey D.
Yeah, unless it's coming from like Shane, who could be bombed somewhere in Europe right now. That's the only thing. If Shane is just drunk sending you messages, I don't trust this at all.
I'll never leak my sources, dude. Never.
I almost spit my water out when you said that. I don't know why.
Leak my sources.
I don't know why. He said don't leak the sources. Oh god. That's actually awesome. Kind of why I wanted to do this. We like talk about this type of stuff. Like Joe's coming up with intel. on
I'm
the
just
spot.
happy that Europe wants to win some
So
tournaments,
am I.
dude. And they're just dropping fools. They're like, we're going to America and we're winning tournaments. I don't care what happens. You know, I
And
It's
look,
respect
how
it.
it needs to be. It's how it
I
needs to
respect
be.
it.
And it's never been the thing with Europe where it's been individual talent. Like they have great individual skill. I mean, some of the games, TeeP, you remember, like Black Ops 2, like that Epsilon squad, I think was probably the best team that you guys played all year. Just from
100%.
like a skill standpoint. So, I mean, they had the
this,
skill.
If this Splice rumor's true, which I really think it
I
is,
would be so excited.
dude, that's a damn
I'd be
good team.
so excited.
What team? Sorry.
The Super Splice is on my column.
Oh,
Yeah.
if that's for real, dude. I mean, I think the guys.
I don't know
Laser
who's
Chicken,
gonna. I don't know
dude,
who's
send
gonna
me a
call
jersey.
out.
Send me a
I have
jersey.
no idea
dude.
who's
Can
gonna
we
call
bring
out,
back
but we
coaches?
gave
I
him a
feel
big
like Swizz will need to step in
Swizz has
and
to.
just start talking.
Dude, imagine
just
if there
really-
was
yeah.
coaches,
Does that
dude.
team
They-
beat Infused? With how good Infused has been.
I don't know, man.
They should.
I don't know. I'm just really
No,
afraid in
Fuse is
terms of
good.
like communication wise but it works for United, right? So screw it. Let's just shoot more people, dude.
Well, that's
like,
a team where I'm super excited for them because I think things would go well. But at the same time, that is one where we've seen super teams in the past. It could not go super well, and they could end up struggling. Joe's talking to Mo. His sources is Mo. Mo's giving him the
Did you guys hear me?
sources. Yeah, now we can.
Sources come in. Mo's the one telling me, giving me all
Oh,
the leaks.
come on, man. Mo's been giving the intel all along.
I'm just kidding.
That would be bad. You told us you went out the sources, and she showed up right on stream.
I have all the sources. It's fine.
All right, so we talked a lot about Europe. We kind of have a decent landscape of what's going on with Europe. If you guys are interested in that, we've been putting out a lot of the ESRs daily, like on the MLG channel when roster changes go down and pro point shifts. I've been adding a lot of that stuff up, so you guys can look for that. If there are changes, give you guys an update. But EG, is that the roster they really want going into Stage 1 potentially?
No.
It's a big commitment.
The thing is, what is the roster you want, though? What can this roster put together? Because my thinking was during ESWC, I was like, Cloud9 is going to drop. Okay, if Assault and Lacefield leave, that's one option, right? But that is obviously not happening. The second option to me was they probably paddle somehow talk Ricky out of it, and then they pick up like a Havoc, which makes sense because then Ricky would go to EG. He's played with Nameless and Study before. But if Cloud9's not changing, I don't know who EG gets. So to me, I think this is probably the...
They're almost forced to do it.
Who do you get? I don't...
So, I mean, there's
you
a
can't
huge...
get anyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge gap from 12th to 13th in terms of points in North America.
So many.
So they could go... They can go lower in terms of points. But, like, is there anyone that they would want from TK, Echo Fox, G2...
No.
I mean, we're down to
EG, I'm
lethal
trying
gaming.
to get somebody off of Panda, Gosu, Crew Blue, or Allegiance, right? Like
100%.
Yes.
maybe Profizi, maybe Royalty, or Mox. Like I'm not trying to get anybody else because they have the most points. Or do you try to steal off someone off E6? I don't know.
Or what if you tried to make like a team like with Fastball and Profizi, where you were like Havoc and Naga or Nameless plus Study plus those two.
You know who should team all those players that Joe you just named, and someone be the fourth? That'd be a good team.
Yeah.
Like get Havoc in there, or
like a Havoc. I think that'd be a dominant team.
Well, the issue
like
is that of EG, Havoc has the least amount of points.
True.
Havoc's only got 12,575.
But I meant like out of these bubble teams, the bubble teams are the only ones that are gonna make changes, and now is the time to do it. You can make I would say a superstar lineup, but a better lineup than what they probably have now.
See, I like what Shadows just put in the chat. I like that, dude. If I'm a Lacefield and Assault, I'm trying to team with General and Proto. That's a very good team.
That would
really
be pretty good.
But like, how do you get there? There's no way they end up there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm just saying, like
that would crush Cloud9 too.
Yeah.
There's no way Cloud9 makes that deal even just because of the points. There's no way they make that.
I'm just saying, that's a solid team.
Oh, that would be.
But I don't think
Lacefield
and Assault leave. Supposedly, I mean, I don't know. I would
not letting that happen.
I would definitely, but I don't know, man.
I don't think there's going to be too much roster stuff going on A side, but EG's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything. They're like with such the deficit at the drop off after 12. Like you just pray you do good at Dallas again.
That's kind of what they have to rely on, right?
100%. They have to pray that one of these bubble teams just doesn't do well, and then they have another decent performance, I guess.
I'm actually adding up the points of that fake E6 team for really no reason right now, just to see where they would end up. So they'd have 58,590 points. Cloud9 loses how much in this exchange? Let's say it's a 1-for-1. They would lose. Actually, that's kind of odd.
It's weird because Assault dropped lower.
Assault dropped lower, so they actually gain points. They gain actually 1,600 straight up with Cade for Assault, and then they only would lose. They'd only lose a little bit. They would be about in the same spot actually. That actually would not. That deal would actually not put. If you made that Proto, General, Assault, and Lacefield, they would actually not pass Cloud9 if you did 2 for 2 straight up.
I mean, who cares about passing them? They just need not
And they
in the
just need to
ninth
outplace
spot.
them, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, who the heck cares? Like that team's ridiculous.
That's team.
Actually, okay. Back to EG. I mean, they could make a 1-for-1 swap. Just get
Yeah,
rid of
1
one
for 1.
person. That's
Or
the only
2.
thing that would. Maybe
Or-
2.
Or 2 if it's one of those bubble teams.
Like maybe Allegiance and EG swap people to just maybe hope it goes better.
But I haven't been able to watch much of EG, so I don't know really like who to point. Like I
Yeah.
just don't know. Like to me, it's just one of those teams. It's just a weird team. It
Yeah. What
doesn't
about
make too
do you
much
think?
sense.
Do you think they even entertain Parasite?
No,
I know for a fact Study and Nameless do not want a team.
no way.
No way.
Just want to throw it out there. You have some teams on the bubble. Cloud9 is in 7th right now. Basically, everybody from 6th place up is good. So your teams that are actually in very good spots right now to get into Stage 1 are Luminosity, Envy, Rise Nation, FaZe, Optic, and United. They are all pretty good. Luminosity,
And they're not changing.
and they're
None
not
of those
changing.
teams.
Luminosity is up
those-
12,000 points on Cloud9.
Yeah.
Then it's really just, I feel like this is going to come down to, it's really just between 3 teams, I feel like. It's really between
Yeah.
Cloud9, E6, and Panda. I feel like one of those three is obviously not going to make it in. With Gosu Crew kind of like looming.
What if like Gosu Crew dropped somebody for like royalty or something? Like what if they pick up one
Yeah,
more
That's what they
talented
should.
player?
That's what they should do.
That's actually a really good idea.
I feel like out of these bubble teams, I would pick Royalty as like my wild card player that could make you dramatically better.
Mhm.
But
I feel like
worst case, you stay the same, right?
Or what if like E6 could get their hands on like Mox?
Yeah, I like Mox a
as
lot.
player.
Yeah. I don't know. He showed a lot of character at Vegas. Like his team obviously didn't perform, but every day he was like the first one in the venue. If he wasn't playing, he was at the warm up, like playing a shit ton. Like you guys, you've been around Swanee and the way he plays COD.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what Mox reminded me of. He just loves the
Yeah.
game. So I
love
think
Swan.
I think this dude, like if this goes to Crew Blue team makes like one more change, like they could sneak into the pro league. I could see this team making it.
I mean, they're right there, dude. Drama has been grinding. I mean, he has a ton of points. CM is 15K. That would be wild. Imagine a league where you don't see Cloud9. Just look at some of the players. That's why, like, this year I think I'm probably the most excited, just because we have so many new players. It seems like it's just not the same. Like, sometimes the pro league, right? Like you end up with the same bottom teams all the time. Like they blow out the
Yeah.
teams in relegation. They come back. Guess what? They're still at the bottom. This year it's like, it's completely open. I mean, look at this.
The 16 we're gonna have in
Oh, we're gonna
Pro
be
League
the
is gonna
best.
be good, dude. It's gonna be good. Like
So-
I don't think like the lower seeded teams that barely make it in are gonna like extremely struggle, and that's amazing.
So I mean, teams we talk about, like, players, just players in general. I mean, Spacely, Chino, Legal, Accuracy, Llama, Pac-Man, Parasite, Neslo, the whole TK squad with Colchan, Goonjar, Happy Theory, like everybody on EG, like these guys were in both stages last year, and they're not there right now. It's kind of crazy to see that much turnover in a year.
I mean, this is a more legitimate system to find out who belongs. It is what it is. It's more, you get to see a bigger, test
Sample
of
size?
how these players perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, sample size. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Of
I'm the
how
word
you
guy.
guys are going to perform.
I'll be the word
you're
guy.
on point with it.
You
today.
guys just give
But
thoughts.
like if we had the same system last year, it could have been the same thing. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you had what, like 2 best of 5s in a stage 1, then 1 best of 5 in a stage 2, like or
yeah,
best of 7, whatever it was.
It's so much better because you can't have that one good event and just be okay now. Like, does it help?
it
Oh, yeah.
does.
But you can't completely flop either. That's like
Mhm.
what Cloud9's doing. Like
No.
after Vegas, we're like, oh, they're good. They're gonna make the pro league, and now it's like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, Master Mike asked, can EG make the league? They definitely can. EG is currently sitting at 12th.
And they're 3,000 behind ninth. So if this team sticks together, like there's still 2 more 2Ks, they can even move up to ninth and start in pool play. So
Well, how many
And then
how many pool play teams for Dallas, Joe?
9.
9. So right now you would have Allegiance and EG having to play through Open. Do we still
I
have
think-
confidence in those teams playing through Open getting there?
So these 2Ks are very important. And then,
Yeah.
like, literally, if you look at the pro points, like, Dallas is the same pro points as Atlanta is going to be earning, right? So, like, all these bubble teams are probably going to be placing somewhat similar. You know, the jump from 13 to 16 to 9 through 12 is 4,000 pro points for your team. So it's like,
Right. A lot.
that as long as you place better than the team you're on the bubble with, that's what these guys are playing for.
I'll link you guys the pro points for NA in the chat. That what I'm looking at when I talk about this.
Dude, Dallas is going to be awesome.
Dallas
Like,
is going to be
we,
crazy.
we need to highlight those placement matches for sure.
Oh, yeah,
like
we will.
in
Oh,
loser
we
bracket. Yeah, I'm sure we
Yeah.
will. I'm just saying, like, that's going to be nuts.
Dude, I'm going to be just the math guy. I'm just going to be the guy who stands at a big board.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Matt.
Calculating it
You know
out.
who's gonna be the Matt guy is Alex Penn.
That
He's
is
gonna be
true.
the Matt
That
guy.
is true.
True.
Well, basically what will happen is I'll go into the back, I'll ask Alice, Penn, and Rami what the hell is going on. They'll tell me, and then I'll be the one who presents it. So now you kind of blown my cover as the fake math guy.
Yeah.
But any other
Yep.
teams you guys think make a splash, make a change? Like, what are you most looking forward to in this next week? Through the weekend with the 2K.
I mean, I guess I'm just like curious to see if any of these 7 through 12 teams make that change. I think you probably count out E6. I don't think this team breaks up. Panda, they probably don't. They just are like, we did really well at Atlanta. Like, we can make it. Like, we should have gotten above and beyond what we did. They obviously throw away some series. Goes to Blue, Allegiance, and EG are the 3 I'm gonna have my eyes on. I think in there can be some shuffles. So maybe like these teams are like, okay, let's do one last 2K, let's see what happens, and then after that, like they can obviously make changes. So looking at those 3, maybe a player from like TK somehow slips into this all. Like who knows?
Yeah. Nah, Tyler, what about you?
I don't want these 9 through 12ers to, or I guess 10 through 12 to, like, just settle with their rosters. If they aren't confident completely, I want them to try and make a sort of
Go for
super
it.
lineup out of these, 12 to 16 players. They should not settle. I think if they do make one of these roster changes, they're gonna have like a honeymoon sort of stage at the perfect sort of time, especially if they're doing well online. I think they should go for it.
All right,
man.
before
So-
we go, that's actually a good point. 9 through 12, the teams are Panda, Gosu Crew Blue, Allegiance, and EG. What is the best roster you can make using any combination of all those players?
Shit.
Whew.
It's
Wait,
it's a pretty loaded question there.
Did
I
you
should've given
include
you a
E6
little
with
bit
that?
more time. We can include E6 if you want. I didn't because I
No,
thought
no,
E6
that's
would
fine.
be pretty
Let's do it.
safe.
Yeah.
10,
E6.
11, 12, you said?
9, 10, 11, and 12. So you're looking at Panda, Gosu Crew Blue, Allegiance, and EG. If you were to make a super team out of those lineups, try and challenge for that spot, who do you go with?
Damn.
Just, like these are the teams you don't see on stream that often.
know,
so
right?
it's difficult. Let's just choose one player from each team.
One
Let's do
player
that.
from each team. Okay, so I'm going to go first
Okay.
because I have not really thought about this, but I can think of it on the fly. Give me I'll take Profizi from Panda.
100%.
I think you could throw fastball in there too. I mean, both those guys fit pretty
Yeah.
well. I'll take Profizi from Panda. Give me Mox from Gosu Crew Blue. We already talked about his strong play.
I think the first 3 are easy. I think it's EG.
Give me
where it gets
Royalty
tough.
from Allegiance.
Yeah,
Yeah, the EG one is tough.
it's tough, right?
I don't know who you take from those guys. No one's been like good. No one's been like amazingly bad either. You know?
It's kind of crazy. We're talking about like Havoc potentially ending up on Cloud9 with those 3 young guys. I don't know if Havoc's the player you'd want in there.
I
Yeah.
would probably with those 3 guys. I'd
Study or
probably take
Nameless.
Nameless.
I think Nameless
I'd probably
probably.
take Nameless.
It's like Nameless would. Nameless with that young crew would probably be like your safest pick.
Yeah.
Or Naga.
probably.
Nameless or Naga. Because Naga's played with royalty as well. That's the
true.
other thing.
That's true.
Here's what I would do. I'm not going to take one from each. I don't think I'm going to take anyone from EG, actually.
Wow.
I'm going to go Profizi, Mox, Royalty, and then choose between Fastball and Remy for that type of like style of play. That's
I
probably
think
what I
think
would do.
fastball wins that over Remy.
I think so too. I haven't
think-
seen Remy too much in this game though, to be honest. Like I haven't been focusing on how he's been playing really. So
I think
I'll take Naga, Royalty, Mox, and
it's down. It's Profit was
maybe even Remy, dude. Just bring back the old squad.
yeah,
Just bring them back.
What do you mean?
What? Remy, Royalty, and Nagafin, dude. Bring them all back.
that was the trio.
Yeah.
That honestly, that's not a bad
What
idea.
what was the Epsilon team? Wasn't it Remy? Was it Remy, Naga, Parasite,
Royalty.
and Royalty?
Yeah, and Royal. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, bring
They
them
could
back,
make. They
dude.
could actually make that lineup, which is actually quite.
Yeah.
They could.
They
Yeah.
could. I mean, Parasite's pretty low in pro points, so they would need to be super confident they would
Yeah.
play well. But
Bring them back, dude.
bring it back.
Yeah, I think you make that team and get like a Mox.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
Mox instead of Mox takes the Parasite role.
Yeah,
Easy.
because he has the pro points. Parasite's just not there.
So that would be Royalty, Remy, Naga.
And Mox.
It's not a bad idea.
Is that team better than any combination of the other ones they could make out of those remaining players?
Maybe.
Well, you actually think Nagafin probably, if Nagafin left, they probably pick up Parasite on EG. Who else they really I mean, there's not really many options, right?
Yeah, I guess you might as well go for it,
I
right?
mean, they probably feel the most comfortable playing with Parasite. We haven't seen him on stream a lot, but I've actually seen some people on the Reddit give him some props. Like,
Only
he's pretty
problem
good.
is it-
Yeah.
When you pick a Parasite, you have to pick him up right away and then pray you're getting top fours in these first two 2Ks. If you don't, you're just so far behind. You have to outplace
Oh,
these
well,
other
just in
teams
terms of
by
points.
2.
Yeah.
Like that's tough, but the 2Ks are important. They're going to be huge. These guys got to get like top fours.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, do you make a change before this first 2K or after the first 2K?
I mean, I think we know the answer already. I think they're going to do the second one. I think they're going to be like, let's see how we do.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. The issue is that limits options because
Yes.
let's say EG does well and the other three don't. Like EG is going to be like, we're not changing.
Well, right, because the others are just going to kind of purge the points from each other. So, now, then the EU one is actually interesting. I wonder if we see the new EU teams this weekend. I almost feel like there's too much talk around it for them not to play, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is the way things work is for everybody watching because what it comes down to is contracts and yada, yada, yada. The way it usually works is players start talking to one another and then they bring it to managers and then managers talk and then what'll probably first happen is they'll say it's not going to happen, like this isn't doable. And then what happens is the players keep pushing it because at the end of the day, if your star players want a team, like the manager better go out of his way to make that sacrifice or you need a new manager. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
like that's the way it's been in the past. Like, working with Hastro and Hex and, Caleb from Liquid, like for me, it's like we wanted a team or we wanted to do something like those guys would
Just
make
figure it out.
happen.
Just figure it out.
It'd make
mean,
it happen.
Unless you have Pat on your team, then Pat just does whatever Pat wants to do. I mean,
Yeah.
just breaks all lines of communication.
I totally get that there's contracts involved and it costs a lot of money, but
That
If
was
the-
actually
if your players want it,
that was actually one of
the
the funniest
manager
things that's ever happened. Is we can actually talk about this. Is a little story time. We're talking about making the change for Clay to Karma, and I just remember TV. You remember me telling me about this? I get
Yeah.
a call from Pat at like I don't know, like 3:30 in the morning or like 4. It's like a weekday. He's like, "Yo, what you doing?" I'm sleeping, Pat. What's up? He's like, "Yo, man, we're gonna get Karma. You say he wants to play with us." It's like, all right. Like, what am I supposed to do about it now? Like, Stroh's not up. I'm not call up Stroh at 4 a.m. Like, hey, what's up, man? Send his Karma. Like, I was like, dude, I was like, just go to sleep, whatever. I woke up the next day. Pat's got like, he's talking about contracts, right? I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, I called TeeP. He had no idea any of it was happening.
It's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, TeeP was like, what the hell are you talking
I
about?
was,
I was like,
not,
yeah.
I was not down, dude.
I was like,
No
Tyler,
fucking
we made a
way.
roster change. She's like, wait, what happened? Yeah, it's
I'm
fine.
like,
don't worry
I'm like,
about
oh,
it.
who's gonna tell Clay? Oh, no one.
Hmm.
All right, cool. I guess I'll have to do it.
And I was, well, that got handled poorly. That got handled poorly.
That was the worst.
That got handled poorly.
We did a lot of scumbaggy things. Well, you
I
guys
admit-
did a lot of
I
scumbaggy
admit
things.
that was handled poorly.
And then I just kind of get. I'm like,
Wasn't
well,
my
that
fault.
just happened. Yeah.
It was handled poorly. Yeah, and actually, what was even like crazier was that night I was casting at the MLG offices, and they had the Pro Scrim series going on for Black Ops 2, and you guys were supposed to play somebody. And I remember I got to the office, I told Golden Boy, I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to change that. He's like, why? Like, you know, they're ready to play. I was like, nah, they're making a change. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, he's like, you guys have been winning everything. I was like, yeah. Like, you're right. But yeah, we're making a change. He's like, why the hell are you doing that? Pat, dude. Pat. Well, it's been fun. Episode 2. Gandhi
Did we
wants
miss
to come on for
anything?
episode 3. Do you want to vote on that now?
Yeah.
Joe said like
Yeah.
a 0.5.
I don't care. The more the better.
We go in depth with COD, bro.
I would
all
like
I'm
to actually
saying.
like just go. We can go at Scott for a little bit. We can be like,
All right, I'm down.
you
Down
go,
for that.
Scott. Scott, if you're still in the chat, you're coming on next week. If you're not in the chat, I'll have to tell you that you're gonna come.
So we
on
got
next week.
Scott, and then we got Swan
So
the
we
next
got
week.
Scott, and then we got Swanee. Scott will be
Cool.
our EU expert. He's
We want to take some questions from
Bracey's
chat
third-
really quick. Should we
Bracey's
do
third
that?
question.
Yeah,
Like,
let's do some
yeah,
questions.
we'll do some questions from the chat before we go, or Twitter questions, whichever. I'll look through my Twitter and see if I have any. You guys can man the chat.
All right.
Can team up here. That's what teammates do. Just do stuff. How delusional is Silly for calling Formal the most overrated player in NA? Yeah, it doesn't look good right now.
That's a bad one.
Optic wins the next few events.
top 9 make the league. North America.
Yep. Why doesn't Scump use a sub?
Supposedly he just says he doesn't like it.
He just
That's what
doesn't
he
really
told me.
like it. It's kind of what
Hmm.
the consensus has been. He just doesn't love using the ERAD.
Mhm. That's true.
Do we miss CTF? I miss CTF a little bit. CTF, I have like a love-hate relationship. Like I miss it, and then like I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my god, make it go away. Like that's kind of like I want it, and then I see it. So here's my thing on CTF. It's like there's no reason like I need a reason to leave my base. Like you need to force movement on the map somehow. Like there needs to be some kind of like. You guys are gonna hate me saying this because it's just goes against everything COD's ever done. Like you need like a power up or something on the map. Like Joe's face when I said power up was like, wait, what'd that man just say? Like you need something that's gonna force player movement on the map.
I think it's 99% where number one, the map structure, how much dead space there is behind flags, and the flag placement themselves. If you put a flag in an enclosed area that does not have clean lines of sights, that's your
I said power up
reason
and
to move
everybody
forward.
says no in the chat. So
Yeah, that's all depending on where you put
That's a
these
good one.
flags.
just think,
Yeah.
guys. If it was
And-
me,
and-
I would put active camo in numerous
Like-
spots on the map.
CTF has like 10%, like 10% of the games, not even 10, like 4% of the games are super exciting. The other 96, like, they're just not that exciting.
Dude, that one game though, that's exciting. Like, dude, CTF.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh my
It's
god,
amazing.
Oh my god.
This guy has one. Willie K42. Should Luminosity make a change to get into the top 3?
No. I mean,
No.
what do they even do to get? There's no way they get. I mean, unless Attach walks up to him and says, "Hey, can I join?" Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
It could happen.
Like,
one
yeah,
more
I'm
one more
down.
point. One more point on the CTF point. I think returning the flag should take 2 to 3 seconds. That's your incentive to go
interesting.
pull. So you can chain the flags along better, and you need to actually like slay out in order to get a return.
Like a return
instead of,
time
like,
and a cap time.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I I can see that. I can see it.
Not
That makes
a not a
sense.
cap time. I don't think I
No?
care about the cap time.
I
Just the return.
I tried to sneak that one in there. Will I live stream my wedding? No. No,
Nope.
I'm just gonna be there. I mean, I'm sure you guys see pictures on Instagram or something. Seems like where we put pictures. Thoughts on EG? Do you think they make the league? It's an uphill battle for EG.
Probably not.
Yeah, right
Nope.
now, no. They would need a good Dallas
Who
performance
did they
and
beat
some
at?
help.
Who did they beat at? Who did they beat at Paris? Let's just go through. So
Joe's about to pick EG.
they beat Supremacy 3-2. Close. They 3-0 Elevate. They 3-2 E6, and they lose 3-1 to Epsilon. I don't know, but like, don't know if this team makes the top 9 right now.
Like I
know.
don't trust them against like a top team.
Don't try. They're not consistent enough. Like in those like 3-2 games where like miraculous like comeback like reverse sweeps, like you just can't do that versus the top teams. You can't put yourself in a 2-0 hole.
I got a lot of best player in the game on Twitter. I think right now we can say Formal.
Formal. That's the obvious one right now.
I think Formal's crushing. Most underrated player in the game.
Underrated. I hate this one.
Underrated, I always feel like is weird.
Let me bring up a list of people.
See, here's the
You say,
issue
like,
with saying
enable?
somebody's underrated, because as soon as we rate them and they play bad, then everybody assumes
Yeah.
they're trash, when they may have not really been that great to begin with.
Maybe enable.
Yeah,
I feel like
sorta.
Enable takes a lot of negatives.
I don't
hits.
think Gunless and Slacked are. You guys are spamming that in the chat. Slacked
Slacked is not
we know
underrated.
Slacked
Slacked
is
is
very
we
good.
give a lot of praise.
Yeah.
Gunless, we gave a ton of praise to. Aqua for Cento. I guess you could say the whole Rise.
I
team,
actually think
honestly.
Aqua is a little bit underappreciated. I think he crushes,
guess.
man.
Yeah, he does.
He had a great ESWC, by the way. Rise actually plays the most maps on stream, and he finishes 3rd overall in KD. 1.2.
That's pretty solid.
With
Yeah,
a 1.10 in SND.
Let's give it to Aqua.
I think Aqua's deserving. I think Aqua just doesn't get enough love. Because I feel like he just gets lumped in with the non-sling for those guys.
I'll probably change that after Dallas, really, to see how some of these teams bounce back. Like if United's going to play well, one of those players could be underrated. I don't know.
Ooh, there we go. That's a good one. Our Cities. I like that
Arcee's
pick
a
too.
very good player.
A good pick. Yeah.
That's a good pick as well.
All right, before we go, what is the splice lineup we see in the 2K this weekend?
Or wait, I thought the rumor was that they're getting 0.
Do you think we see it this weekend? It's a rumor. Do you think it's true? And do you
If
think
they're doing it,
happens
they
this
should do it
weekend?
right now. If they're not doing it, don't do it at all.
Does a contract stop you from playing a 2K? No, you'll see it this
Joey.
weekend.
All right. Well, with that, we'll end it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Are you going to wave? You didn't wave last time.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.